All right, so in this video, we're going to go through factoring using the AM method, right? So this is a pretty simple method of getting a trinomial, that is something that looks like this, into a form that looks like this, where it's two parentheses. One of them is x plus something, and then the other one's x plus something else, right? Now, a trinomial is this thing right here. Right here's the basic form of a trinomial: ax squared plus bx plus c. Okay, so be very familiar with that form, because you can only attempt the AM method of factoring if a specific condition holds. This a term needs to be 1 and can't be anything else. Otherwise, the sum product method just won't work. All right, so here's an example. Right, say we had, let's say, x squared plus 5x plus 6, and we want to factor that, right? And we want to use the AM method. Well, first we need to check. See this number up front? If you don't see something there, you can assume it's a 1, right? So the AM method will work. Now, why is it called the AM or sum product method? Well, let's get into the actual technique, right? See these two numbers here that you want to get? These two numbers need to be something that add to this number here, that add to whatever your b term is, right? And multiply to this number here, whatever your c term is. So let's use this as an example for trying to do sum product. Okay, so we know we want to get something like x, and then it's going to be plus or minus something, and x plus or minus something. So we need to figure out two numbers that multiply to 6 and add to 5. Okay, so that's going to be, in this case, it's kind of easy to figure out, 3 and 2, right? A positive 3 and a positive 2. And that's all there really is to the AM method. First, check to make sure that the number here is 1. Make sure you don't see a number. And then see if you can find two numbers where it multiplies to this number and then also adds to this number. And make sure to be aware of the signs. Okay? And I'll give an example of where I can use the same numbers here, change the signs, and have something in here be different. All right? So let's try x squared. And let me think what the signs should be. Yeah, let's make a minus 5x and minus 6. All right, so sum product method or AM method, it's called both things. I typically use both names, but depending on your school or who your teacher is even, they'll refer to it as both names, as either one. So we can use AM method because we don't see a number there, it's just 1. So let's try to find two numbers that multiply to -6 and add to -5. So in this case, it's not going to be 3 and 2, right? Because those would get us positive numbers. It would actually be -6 and positive 1, right? -6 times positive 1 gets us -6. -6 plus positive 1 gets us our -5. All right, so always be careful of these signs. So now let's just look through some examples. All right, so we have here x squared minus 4x minus 12. All right, so AM method. We're allowed to use it because the number up here is 1. Next, let's find numbers that add to -4, right? Pay attention to the sign. Multiply to -12. Now, I'm going to show just a technique for trying to just come up with different numbers, because a lot of times the main difficulty is just finding those numbers. I prefer just making a small chart to the side. So here's going to be -12, the number we need to multiply to. Now let's just think what are a bunch of different factors of negative 12? Well, I mean, negative 12 and positive 1. But if we added those, we would get negative 11. Not what we're looking for. But if we also have negative 12 and positive 1, we also have positive 12 and negative 1, which gets us positive 11, still not what we're looking for. So let's keep trying different things, right? Maybe positive 6 and negative 2. Now, those do multiply to negative 12, but they add to positive 4. Still not what we're looking for, right? And I keep just trying different things until, 12 only has so many factors, right? Only so many things multiply to it. Eventually, I'll just run out, right? Negative 6 and positive 2 multiplies to negative 12, and it even adds to negative 4. So that's the one we're looking for, all right? Now that we found our numbers, let's just put them in. Let's write this term out. X minus 6 is our first number, and x plus 2 is our second number. Easy as that, right? Now let's try another example. This one, for some reason, I see this type give people a little trouble, so try it out yourself. I'd suggest pausing the video and trying this one out before looking through the solution. I mean, hopefully you should be doing it with all of them, but it's going to be x squared minus x, right, minus 72. So give that one a shot, pause the video, see if you can get it. All right. So if you're having trouble finding actual terms, some of you might have gotten it instantly, some of you just might not be seeing it. But you can start out with a factor tree. And you can start listing all the terms. And eventually you would find that negative 9 and positive 8 would work, right? Somewhere down the line. So negative 9, positive 8. They multiply to negative 72, and when you add them together, you get a negative 1. All right? So we get now x minus 9, and finally x plus 8. And we'll go through a few more examples. Let's do x squared minus 11x plus 30. All right, so something like this might be trickier. You see a positive 30, and a lot of people will assume, positive numbers, right? But you can kind of tell what factors you need to get, like what the signs are going to be based off the signs here. I know I have to somehow multiply to a positive number. The only way I can do that is if both numbers are positive or both numbers are negative. But I need to add to a negative number. Two positive numbers can never add to a negative number. So, therefore, I can assume that I'm trying to look for two negative numbers. Even then, even if you're stuck, you can kind of test out each case. So let's make a tree. Right, we're trying to find positive 30. I know positive 2 and positive 15 multiply to 30, but they do not add to negative 11. I also know negative 2 and negative 15 multiply to positive 30. But again, they don't add to negative 11, right? So if you're really confused and you're trying out factors, make sure to also switch signs so they work, okay? Eventually, you'd see that negative 6 and negative 5 multiply to positive 30, and they add to negative 11. So I'm going to end up with x squared, sorry, what am I doing? You can end up with x minus 6 and x minus 5. Now let's just do one more example. Okay, I've got a little room here on this page, so I'll do example 4 right down here. Okay, so what's a good one? Let's do x squared. Plus 14x plus 40. Right? Same thing. Let's find a number that multiplies to 40 and adds to 14. So it's just pausing the video, trying it out for yourself. Okay, so again, pretty straightforward. If you're having trouble, I would suggest making a chart. But the two numbers we have that, multiply to 40 and add to 14 would just be a positive 10 and a positive 4, right? So some of them are more easy to spot. Some of them are a little trickier and might require a tree diagram. But that's pretty much it. It's the only thing to keep in mind is make sure this a term here, in any trinomial you're trying to factor this way, make sure that a term is 1. You should see nothing in front of that leading x squared. And then you could just use this method, right? Adds to this b term, right, this middle term, and multiplies to that n term. Simple as that. If there are any questions, you can throw them down in the comments. But other than that, good luck, guys.